Welcome to the Connoisseur. Today I will review the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. And Christopher Tolkien edited the book, of course, and finished it for his father. It was released posthumously and to mixed reviews. Some people find it too dense. Other people seem to persevere. However, I love it. It is one of my favorite books, ever. I finished it twice so far. I may go for a third, I don't know. It is a work of intense complexity and beauty. It details the creation of Eru Iluvatar, the creation of the Ainur, of the song of the universe essentially being played out in symphony, of the discord of Melkor, the creation of Arda, Middle-earth, the Ainur becoming the Valar, and the Maiar, beings of immense power. Just so you know, the most immensely powerful Ainur that came down was Melkor, but he isn't really counted among them. Manwë is the one who rules, Melkor's brother. He is also in charge of the eagles, so whenever the eagles come by, they are sent by Manwë, king of all of Arda. The characters just can't call on the eagles whenever they want to, because it's up to Manwë. Anyway, it talks about Thingol and Melian, the creation of Middle-earth during one of the wars, and the other lands, of course. Talks of the creation of the stars blanketing Middle-earth, and that is when the Quendai, the elves' true name, the beginning of the Quendai, and they came to the lands of Aman, the land of Aman, shores of Valinor, the city in Aman, the country, as it were, and the trees, and how Fëanor created the Silmarillions in honor of the trees and had the trees light in the Silmarillions. Melkor was captured and was sentenced to about 3 ages, I believe, in the halls of Mandos, and once he got out, he tricked everybody, and he tricked Fëanor most of all, saying his brother wanted to kill him and take over, and so Fëanor threatened to kill his brother and was exiled for that. By the time he figured out that Melkor had tricked him, once he got back for a reunion with his brother, that's when Melkor attacked with Ungoliant, killed the trees, killed his father, took his Silmarillions, and from that day forth, Melkor was called Morgoth by Fëanor, also known as the Black Foe. Then there was the Oath of Fëanor, which would create so much suffering, beginning with the first kin-slaying of the Teleri, the shipbuilders, who were elves and kin of Fëanor and his followers, but since they refused to give them ships for their disastrous quest, they killed them in the first kin-slaying and took the boats. They left Fingolfin and Galadriel behind, and Galadriel and Fingolfin and the other followers who were left behind had to go across the land bridge, the icy land bridge. A lot of them died off. Galadriel was there for it all. She's like the one character from Lord of the Rings that has pretty much almost seen it all, as in terms of the Quendai. Then, of course, there was Thingol and Melian, whose child would be Luthien, of Beren and Luthien. Beren was a mortal man, the first mortal man to fall in love with an immortal elf, and it's their love and their adventures that is actually my favorite love story ever. Interesting note, I was recounting like this very complex and beautiful story to one of my friends, and something unexpected happened. In the middle of the complexity and beauty of Beren and Luthien, my tears started to swell and I started crying. It was so beautiful. I mean, I don't really cry. I mean, in middle school I cried when King Kong was shot off the Empire State Building. When I was 20, I cried when King Kong was shot off the Empire State Building by Peter Jackson and the other directors. But no, it wasn't until about 2010, 2011, I was recounting the story and I just started to cry and I barely made it to the War of Wrath and what happened to the Silmarillions. I couldn't even get through Akabelith and the men of Numenor sailing the ships to the West Forbidden at the request of Sauron, who took over for Morgoth as the Dark Lord. He was the second Dark Lord. He only served Morgoth at first. The Fortress of Autumno and Ingband, the Iron Hell, the Endless Dungeon. Great book. Very many characters, but as I said, my favorite story, and it has to be of Beren and Luthien, is also the third agent of the Rings of Power. That explains how it all ties up with The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and you learn certain things you didn't know before about those books, but that's how it is with all of them. I think that if you start with The Hobbit when you're a kid, by the time you're in high school, you'll be ready for The Lord of the Rings. And once you finish The Lord of the Rings and you go to college, once you're a college student or adult, you should be able to handle the Silmarillion. So again, if you want to know the origins of many of your favorite characters, like where Gandalf and the Astari wizards came from, what stake does Gandalf have in the Ring of Power being found, of Beren and Luthien. There's a reason only Arwen can make that choice to become mortal. No other elf can make that choice. Only the descendants of Beren and Luthien can make that choice to give their mortal lives away, and it has something to do with their love. But I don't want to ruin too much of it. I doubt I've talked about much of it. I've only scratched the surface. This is a very complex book. There are characters like Glorung, the first dragon. Really badass dragon. I mean, evil to the core. I mean, if you thought Smaug was bad, Smaug only cared about his gold. Glorung is just evil to the core, man. Yeah, just great characters like Morgoth, Sauron, Thingol and Melian of Maeglin, Turambar. Yeah, I totally recommend this. Please, if you think you can handle this, read it, and if you can't handle this, don't feel too bad. I find you have to be really smart, really driven, a really big geek, or just love the book.